white creatures and spells of varying cost and quality.
The fairest in the land, if you will.
Doesn't get any more fair. What's the most busted thing to do is like Mangara plus Caracas. Just fairly honest as far as things in Legacy go.
I agree.
A turn 1, a basic Plains and a Sensei's Divining Top. There
Matched by Noble Hierarch.
Yeah, this is actually much closer to a Blue-White Miracles build, although I don't believe I see Counterbalance in his list.
Nope.
Yeah, he appears to have Divining Top for value, which makes a lot of sense when you have, you know, miracles and just general utility and control cards, but no actual counterbalance. So a turn 1 Noble Hierarch and a turn 2 Gadok Teague off of Cabinet of Souls, presumably naming human.
And Noble Hierarch in for 1.
And that's going to mean a plow at the end of the turn.
Gadok Teague was about to get a little note, but nope.
Don't get too attached.
Yeah.
So is there any spice in the Maverick list you got in front of you?
He is running 2 Scrib Rangers, which is approximately 100% more Scrib Ranger than most lists. But I imagine they've paid off pretty well with Merfolk being one of the more successful decks around.
Yes.
He came gunning. He has Stoneforge Mystic, just 1, to Fauna Shaman for, which is a card a lot of Maverick players have started to cut. And his sideboard is a lot of bullets. He has 2 Fairy Macabre and then nothing but bullets after that. Just craziness. And I'm sure we'll get to that once we start talking about how he's going to change his deck for the next round.
So an Academy of Ruins, and this is a Stoneforge Mystic. His Stoneforge targets here are actually just a Batterskull. And in the sideboard he has a Jit in the sideboard. But
he's probably going to wish he had that in the main deck, given this matchup. Batterskull is way less effective against Maverick than a Jit, and neither are especially incredible, but
at least
it shuts down theirs.
Yeah, Jit at least has upside if it actually gets going, but Maverick can take a couple hits from a Batterskull, clog up the ground, and then overpower it.
Yep.
But if Jit gets online, it's just your mana creatures start getting gunned down. It's very difficult to win.
It's very grim for anyone facing down an opposing Jit who's trying to play Noble Hierarchs.
Yeah. So there's a Fauna Shaman. I personally am not a huge Fauna Shaman fan unless it's running alongside the Loyal Retainers package, where at least if you're Fauna Shaman 6, then like you have a very powerful angle.
I agree with that. I feel like Fauna Shaman is a card you generally play for green mirrors, so if you're going to do that, you might as well just be really going over the top of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, crush them. Don't just search out more knights.
Yeah. But it does seem like it has the potential to be reasonably good here. I mean, you can start just trying to get a knight to stick, even if the first couple ones get plowed or countered or whatever, and it's fairly easy to win the game once the knight gets online.
Yeah. It'd be good if he had like some way to like kind of break symmetry, because he's really just trading a guy for a slightly better guy against a deck with Terminus.
Yes.
So at some point, you're just like, well, I'm all out of the good guys. I mean, not out, but there are no more left to play.
Although Fauna Shaman might actually be also part of like his sideboard full of bullet creatures too.
Yes, I'm sure it plays a pretty significant role.
So there's a Kasali Pride Mage.
Well, Batterskull's life is already getting complicated. Note that this time playing the Pride Mage here will either prevent Adam from putting the Batterskull into play or force him to deal with the Kasali Pride Mage.
Yeah.
One of the two. Interesting.
So we're gonna put the Batterskull into play in response? Is that what's happening here, or?
I'm not really sure. No, it looks like. Oh, and then we were allowed to untap with. This is interesting.
Well, I mean, there is. I mean, you had to assume at some point that that Ruprecht has to actually tap low. Like you don't. I can understand not wanting to fire off the Pride Mage right away with Academy Ruins in play.
Sure.
Like you want to time it so there's some amount of inefficiency. That said, if he gets to start attacking with the Batterskull, it's like, well, you have to respond somehow.
Yeah, you can't just take it forever. You can take it, 4 times or whatever, 5 even.
Yeah.
Sean's awkward mana base has kind of forced him to tap strangely on this turn. He missed out on potentially getting in some kind of damage, but he is getting to Fauna Shaman.
So we're going to go get Knight of the Reliquary here.
Scavenging Ooze is pretty underwhelming in the matchup, so...
You can do a little bit of detail work on Snapcaster Mage and bringing up Academy Ruins, but overall it's one of your lower impact cards. Okay, yeah, just some confusion about what's been plowed and what is just in the normal graveyard.
Solved that.
Like, I can actually understand. I kind of like Sean's line here. If he goes and gets Knight of the Reliquary, and then assuming that sticks, he can then go Wasteland the Academy Ruins, and then from there kill the Batter Skull. In the meantime, you have to take up a couple hits or whatever, but then you don't have to worry about like having to slog through it a second time.
Sure. With the Scavenging Ooze, he also has a new option with regard to the Batter Skull.
Yes.
Grant you, the Academy Ruins is probably just like the more prevalent of the threats, mostly due to engineered explosives, I would think. It looks like, well, we're shortcutting like all the way. It looks like we attacked and then tried to get rid of the Batter Skull before blockers, and it reappeared very magically, as though from thin air, through the
Stoneforge Mystic.
The power of bouncing and Stoneforge Mystic.
So I believe this Fauna Shaman is trading right now.
If we wanted to make this play, I don't think I would want to make this play, but killing the Stoneforge before we Pride Mage would have been essential.
I suspect we did not want to make this play.
Yeah.
Were I a betting man?
This was a grim trade. On the upside, now we can Scavenging Ooze the Batter Skull.
Yep.
Right?
Well...
No.
Well, no. well, no, we can't do that. That's okay.
Yeah. I think we're in a pretty awkward spot. Awkward is one word.
Yeah. I mean, we still need to get... I still believe that turn could have been better served just trying to get Knight of the Reliquary online.
Yeah.
Spinning Fauna Shaman until you find a Knight that sticks. Then starting maybe go into a Wasteland plan.
I think the Maverick deck actually is completely fine playing a kind of waiting game against Esper Stoneblade. There are so many cards that are really annoying for them to deal with. If you lead with Mother of Runes early and can turn off their ability to go like into Swords and Snapcasters, they're really heavily reliant on those Wrath effects.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of been a big shift in the matchup. I mean, pre-Avacyn Restore,
yes,
they were trying to trade 1-for-1 with plows and like paths to contain things. But now with Terminus floating around, it's a much different ballgame. The threat of getting Wrath is always looming, and that really wasn't a thing before.
A number of players predicted Terminus being a player in Legacy before its release, including Cedric.
Yep.
And Richard Feldman were two of the ones I saw speaking out very quickly.
Yeah, it is interesting because basically all of the hype was about the Time Walk. And that turned out to be, I mean, it's made a bit of an impact.
Yeah, it's been a playable spell.
So are we trying to respond to the sword?
It looks like we've had some sequencing concern. He wastelanded Academy Ruins and...
okay, we're just going to counterspell the path.
Okay. He was responding to the bounce of the Batter Skull with Path to Exile, and counterspell will stop that, is apparently what has happened. Scavenging Ooze begins his march.
So I assume we're going to be casting our Knight of the Reliquary here.
Yep. And that makes this a pretty juicy board for a potential Terminus.
Yeah. He hasn't really been, I don't know how much topping he's been doing, so I don't know if there's one in the float, but...
He's not even that far away from hard casting it.
Yeah, he got Wastelanded off from 5 down to 4, and now he's back up to 5.
Stoneblade, like Maverick, is a deck that can take some hits and then come back to take over the game.
Yeah.
Batter Skull being one of the magic spells that allows you to do that.
This is actually a pretty... what's to me pretty interesting about this matchup is both decks have the same capacity to get behind on the board or get 2-for-1 a couple times and then be able to go over the top of what's happened and come back. So they can both play kind of an aggressive or controlling role as sort of the cards come up.
It's less about tempo and more about just creating a position that the opponent can't fight.
And it's weird because in these sort of games, usually, in matchups like that, usually there's one deck that's like comfortably in the control role and one that's comfortably in the beatdown role. And I suppose the argument would be that, you know, Maverick is more of the beatdown deck in the matchup. They have more, like, you know, aggressive tools or whatever. But there is definitely elements to the Maverick deck that can allow them to play a controlling game.
It looks like we're growing our Scavenging Ooze to give our opponent 4 life here, basically.
Yep. Make him waste his mana.
Yep.
So now I assume right now we want to spin our forest into a wasteland. No, I guess we're gonna just go. So now he's exposing himself big time to a six land and a terminus.
It's a dangerous position to be in.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're looking to dial up with Knight otherwise.
I think a lot of players default to just assuming they should be knighting during end steps or stuff like that. You know, the fallacy of the end step. Oh man, that's brutal.
Oh no, that's humility. For those of you who've never seen this one before, it's very good against creatures with powers.
Yes. Scavenging Ooze is one of the better creatures against a humility because while he will become a 1/1, those counters will make him into a 4/4, but that's not going to be enough to match anything wearing a Batterskull due to the wonder of layers. Batterskull, for the uninitiated, will continue to grant bonuses to the creatures that are equipped to it, that it is equipped to, following the resolution of a humility.
So humility is 2 white and 2 colorless enchantment. All creatures lose powers and become 1/1s.
We're going to go ahead and throw that image up on screen for you for all the good it'll do you, because I think you might want to be logging on to the FAQs to
this is
fully
also one of
understand
the most rules-intensive cards, not by itself, but in conjunction with other things in the history of Magic.
The other several... Whoa! That was really creepy.
Did you ghost us out somehow? Oh, okay, there we go. Just went back to a screen of empty chairs.
I thought for a minute that I wasn't there, and all of a sudden nihilism took a whole new profound meaning for me.
All right, so he's going to be taking 5 here. He has a 4/4 and a 1/1. He traded his now 1/1 no power Stoneforge Mystic for the now 1/1 no power Knight of the Reliquary.
I don't think I really like that. Like, wouldn't you just keep the Stoneforge and equip it with the Batterskull?
Not if you're just... I guess not if you're planning on just terminusing anyway, but yeah, I think I would prefer to, yes.
Well, we're going to top. Depending on the position, this could just be like Adam's game to lose at this point, basically. Like, if you can just answer whatever's going on.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need very much. He needs, like, you know, a Jace would be more than enough to win the game from here. Yeah, Terminus followed by Jace is pretty much...
The only real way for Sean to take it from here appears to be his Umezawa's Jittes, if I'm correctly evaluating this. Given that the rest of his deck are creatures, or Zeniths to get creatures, or Sylvan Library to draw creatures, and Swords to Plowshares to kill irrelevant creatures, I think the Umezawa's Jittes are the relevant spells.
Sometimes the simplest answers are the best ones. It's like, is your deck built around creatures with powers? All right, I think this card's probably going to be good against you. And then it turns out that it is.
Yep.
It's nice when the world makes sense.
Very surprising. Terminus has mopped the board, and it looks like Sean is going ahead and questioning the interaction of humility with Batterskull, perhaps to learn it or to just make sure he knows what's going on. Ha, that guy's got a power. Flash. Relevant. Untap.
So it is a power in the hand and not a power in play, so it still applies.
Slam a Jitte and get there? Nope. Oh.
So, for example, a creature with cycling, you could still cycle out of your hand because it's a power in the hand, but...
Very relevant.
Protection from blue is shut off because that's a power in play.
We're going to Green Sun Zenith for 1. I like 1 here, you know. Every casting cost is as good as the next, right? Like,
don't worry too much about it. It's all the same.
Oh, okay. No, go get that one instead.
So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a very challenging game to win. Like you said, I agree with you. Basically, is his JIT is the only thing that can kind of provide him with enough power to get through what's happened here.
Yep.
It's just like the batter skull getting reset is a disaster.
Yeah, there's pretty much nothing but bad news going on the opposing side of the table.
Yeah. We don't need much. We need a Jace basically from here. A backup divining top.
That's handy, right?
I guess. I mean, he can always just cycle it off the top and shuffle with his floating strand, so.
Top, one of the trickier cards in Magic.
Yes.
You get what you pay for. Got to learn the tricks of the trade.
Yep.
Up, the batter skull's back. Now we're going to begin trying to actually end the game before our opponent's various 1/1s.
We just drew a Jace too, so.
Oof.
Those are all the pieces we need. We can just land our batter skull, and then the following turn play Jace, and that should just about wrap it up.
That should do it. Even though the Mazavith is somewhat disabling the batter skull's offensive capability, all it really needs to do in this spot is block and keep Jace around.
Add him with a really physical shuffle.
Yeah, man, that's aggressive. Looks like we're slamming the batter skull. Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense because you don't want the Jace to be under
Sure.
duress. You want the board to be as stable as possible for it.
No need to give up the free loyalty.
Yep.
Sean really wanted a Jitte on that turn. Didn't get it.
So
It's attacking, and I think we're
just
probably
gonna
about
maze
to...
our...
I actually think we may just be learning the interaction now. Yep.
Oh, I think he was under the assumption that it was a 1/1.
It was a trade, yep. But it's not a trade at all. That makes this attack look a little less good.
Although I don't think that even if it was a trade, I'm still not a fan of that attack.
Yeah, that's fair.
All
right, we're done here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Learning some humility through humility.
The card can teach us all.
So we're going to in our sideboards here we have our Blue-White Miracles player, Adam, has the option of actually siding into 3 copies of Counterbalance. He has it in his sideboard. I actually don't like Counterbalance very much against Maverick because they have a reasonable spread of casting costs, and now with the addition of Cavern of Souls, there's even less stuff that you can tag with it potentially. But he does have 2 copies of Path to Exile, another Terminus, and a JIT, and I believe those cards will come in.
Sure. Looking over here, we've got a lot of bullets in Sean's sideboard. The relevant ones, I could see Harmonic Sliver. He's got a 1 of that. He's got Oblivion Ring. I imagine that one's a lock. Choke, also a lock. Because he's bringing in those cards, I would expect the Enlightened Tutor to come in as well.
Okay.
He has Crozen Grip as another way to handle these problematic non-creature permanents. And Thrun the Last Troll. And potential players, a sort of Feast and Famine, like Phyrexian Metamorph. Not super enthusiastic about those options, but they're legal spells. You could run them.
So what are you taking out from his end? Like the Script Rangers seem pretty bad.
Yeah. The Script Rangers seem grim. I would be interested in getting rid of probably the... I don't know. I think you kind of need beaters, so I don't want to get rid of all the uses. I think his Mystics are a lot worse than Adam's, so he can get rid of maybe the Mystic and the Fauna Shaman engine. I'm not very enthusiastic about that in this matchup specifically. And he wants to keep in a few swords probably, but not all of them.
Yeah, I would definitely cut the Path and then...
Yeah, the Path and like 2 swords probably. Yeah. Stay on 2. So he's got a range of options depending on exactly how far he wants to go.
Yeah, and this is a matchup where a couple months ago, before the addition of some new content, I would be happy to play it from the Maverick side.
Yep.
But now the addition of Terminus, I think, has turned this matchup into being just actively bad.
I agree. I remember covering the match a few times before Terminus was a player and being surprised at just how grim it was for the Stoneforge player, but things have changed and now they have a trump card.
Right. So the easiest way, historically, at least in my opinion, the easiest way to try to fight, to win the matchup from the Stoneblade perspective is to try to put together a stable board and win with Jace. Is the easiest way. It's because it's so hard to attack between like Mazavith, the plows, and just like general gumming of the ground. It's very hard to win that way. But if you play Jace on a stable board, it's pretty easy to win. Terminus fits in very naturally to like that sort of game plan.
Yep.
Makes
Also, a lot of synergy with Jace and Brainstorm and Top and all the things the deck was already doing anyway.
Yeah.
So you just gain so much incidental value from playing the card.
So you had to assume that he's bringing in the Crozan Grip and the Oblivion Ring here, even if he was on the fence about it before because of
the drubbing that he received from humility. Yeah, I agree with that.
That card is an oldie but a goodie.
Yep. I think that game came down to Sean's. He kind of had an idea of like the state he needed to get the game to, but a couple failures in execution cost him.
Yeah.
Basically, some instances with the Batter Skull and some combat steps that just didn't go as expected. Basically.
Yeah, like when he initially sat on the Kasali Parade Mage and didn't kill the Batter Skull, it was like, oh, okay, I think there's this path being laid out of.
Right.
We're gonna go get a knight. We're gonna handle the Academy Ruins. We're not gonna, we're gonna try to alleviate it that way. In the meantime, Adam might be like holding up all his mana because he doesn't want to tap below 3 to protect it. So like he might induce some inefficiencies on that end. But instead, there were some operational errors, and then the game sort of got away from him with the humility providing the nail in the coffin.
I think that's the danger of changing plans a lot of the time, where you work out all the variables, and then when you decide to change your mind, you don't go back through and work them out again.
Yeah.
And you wind up missing something small or sometimes something large.
They're all large. Even the small things are large.
Poetry.
So, turn 1 Windswept Heath for Savannah. Let's see if we're going to see a Noble Hierarch or a Mother of Runes or some such.
Looks like Mother of Runes. Yeah. Again, a card.
Before this opening used to be
awesome.
Devastating against Esper Stoneblade because now it's like, well, you can't kill my knight. Everything's completely clear. But now with the addition again of Terminus, now Mother of Runes is just not nearly the card it used to be. It's still fine, but before this opening right here on the play, if Adam didn't have a plow or a path, I would have said this game's going to be really hard to win.
Yep.
I don't feel the same way anymore.
I agree. It's just really tough. Mother of Runes used to be able to cut off basically all the avenues of interaction for Stoneblade in the matchup, or if not all, most. And now it's borderline irrelevant to the primary mode of interaction.
It is interesting to me, though. It's like, if Terminus is so good against Maverick, then why weren't these Esper Stoneblade decks like sideboarding some number of Day of Judgments the whole time, or Wrath of Gods rather? So there's a Thalia, which now
that's a card.
Now we're protected by Mother of Runes, so that's very nice. Again, a miracled Terminus handles this very easily. But
you can perform a few cute tricks to try and stave that off. For example, a Wasteland on Sean's turn would keep him protected for another turn cycle from a Miracle Terminus. But you can only fight the Reaper for so long, man.
Yeah. And now he's going and getting his Jit.
Yeah, that equipment's going to be pretty good here.
I mean, it doesn't start getting dangerous for Sean until, as long as Mother of Runes stays
as long as the mom is in play.
But if something happens there, then the Jit can bust the game wide open.
Mom is super important until she's completely irrelevant.
Right.
One of the cuter tricks the Stoneblade players used to have to do to get around Mom was fire something like a Swords during the end step to tap her and then untap into the Jitte.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to happen here. We can just wait. We got time.
Yeah, Adam is not under nearly enough pressure to be concerned about that right now. He can afford to take a couple shots for 2.
No twiddle is necessary.
There's a Wasteland.
Huh?
Gonna tag the Tundra.
As predicted. I must be some kind of sorcerer.
Thalia in for 2. And do we have a follow-up play? No.
Nope.
And we did that this turn instead of casting Night of the Reliquary, which I actually like fine as a play, but it is worth noting that he was willing to maybe he respected the threat of Terminus, or possibly hoping that Adam was just going to be sold on 2 lands enough to pass on casting Night of the Reliquary that turn.
Yeah. I think generally, especially when you feel like you're facing a tough matchup, crossing your fingers and hoping the Wasteland just gets them is a pretty good strategy in Legacy.
I'm a huge fan.
I thought you might be.
Yeah. I mean, when when I top 8 at the Invitational in Indianapolis last year with that Wasteland Zoo deck, that like the mana was so bad that you couldn't cast your spells. But that was fine because they couldn't cast theirs either. So all you needed to do was play a card ape. Didn't even matter if it never became a 2/3. It'd still be good enough.
I remember seeing some 1/1 card ape games in that tournament. I haven't seen many in my day, so they stick out.
Just plateaus and card apes. It's good enough to get it done.
Hey, man.
It was a different time. It was a different time for the format.
Yeah.
So I assume this is going to be our Knight of the Reliquary right here. Oh, no, we're Zenith thing for 2.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Zenith thing for 1 because of Thalia in play.
Yeah. Interesting. So that probably means he's planning to stay defensive and be afraid of Jitte. Stoneforge could put the Jitte in and enter combat if it were not for Thalia on defense. Now, he could attack with the Thalia and rely on Mom blocking and then tapping to save herself.
But you are starting to expose yourself to a sequence that could ruin you.
You just want to rely on your 2/1 first striker. Thalia can handle business all by herself. Or she can attack. Oh, we have the natural Batterskull for a back-breaking.
I assume before blocks we'll pro-block, but now
our life
we are
is
in some
hell.
serious danger.
Oh.
You might as well do it before blocks and...
Well, yeah, we definitely want to do it before blocks.
Get in for a 3-ball. Yeah.
Yep. It's one of the tricky things about Stoneforge Mystic.
Just because they tutored for A doesn't mean that they don't have B.
Yep. You gotta watch her. She's crafty. Well, with that, Adam, pretty far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, now we can, like, cloud other runes if we care to.
You know, interestingly, I think there might be some merit to having tried to run this on the next turn. Because then you could have played an equipped Jitte in the same turn. Or I should say mysticked an equipped Jitte after your opponent had to tap the Mom.
Sure.
So while you like give up what looks kind of like a free roll, you actually are basically paying 4 life to turn a Jitte on if your opponent has nothing. Which, I don't know. Maybe it's too cute, but...
No, I mean, there's merit to what you're talking about. It's hard to argue with, like, how the sequence is played out.
Yeah. It's a game... It's the old, you know, a lot of these plays will work, but only one of them's actually, you know, the best one. I don't know. I feel like my natural tendency to find the cute play might have led me down that line.
Sure.
I do love to dance.
Yeah.
Broken Sleeve giving us a quick replace.
And now that sequence was such a beatdown too, because he has Snapcaster Mage still in his hand, so he has Snapcaster Plow plus Jit in hand. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Just got ugly.
One of the interesting things about my variation on that play is that your opponent's own Thalia is helping protect you from the threat of Swords to Plowshares disrupting the line.
Yep.
It's one of my favorite ways to beat a Thalia.
There's a Knight.
Looks like Knight's a 4/4. I assume
4/4 plus he
else.
has Horizon Canopy at the ready, so we can make it a 5/5. He's feeling so inclined.
I don't think that's gonna ward Adam off. His Jitte is good enough that he can just get it on to Batterskull, attack, and then kill the Knight after combat.
I mean, it assumes he has a 4th land,
yeah.
Right? Which I'm not sure is the case.
It's fair. Oh, we don't. Yep. We've passed.
Saying go.
Look at you, also a sorcerer.
Get around the block.
Draw step, Vendilion
click. Click not generally speaking very good in this matchup, but this is definitely an awesome time to have it.
Yeah.
Gives us a great target for Jit. Although now that he has Knight, he can go find Maze, so that's... You know.
I kind of felt like I might have clicked myself if I'm missing the land here, rather than my opponent, who doesn't appear to be doing much anyway. But we shuffled away the Green Sun Zenith, or I should say, bottomed the Green Sun Zenith.
This is sort of what I was talking about with, you know, the matchup a little bit from the Stoneblade perspective. Is like, Adam's fairly far ahead on the board, or not necessarily on the board, but the game is pacing to be favorable for him at this point. but it's still very hard for him to attack. Like now, Knight can get Maze, and you can't get Jit online. So like a lot of his game plan needs to be devoted to, in my opinion, needs to be devoted to trying to get Jace online, because it's very hard to try to win by like actually attacking the Maverick deck.
Sure.
Challenging.
Finding a Jace or miracling a Terminus seem to be like the two ways to break this board open at this point.
Yes.
Send. And we'll take.
Sure.
I think that's fine. If your opponent doesn't have the Jitte on, then you don't really need to go get the Maze. You can take a few points and spend your Knight accruing better value than just preventing three damage.
You don't want to Stone Rain yourself quite yet. So we are going to go find Windswept Heath.
Yep.
Okay, so we're just basically pumping our Knight and thinning our deck a little bit.
Yep.
Although this might find a Dryad Arbor this time.
I can see that. Kind of depends on
I guess
what
if the
we're
threat
doing.
of Terminus is there, you're less inclined. No, we're just going to get a Forest. I like the 96 Arena motif he's going for with his basics. It's a nice touch.
Yeah, it's nice.
A classic.
We've got Island Bowls over there. One of the more popular Island artworks. I use that on Moto, my Delver deck.
I think those Zendikar lands are tacky.
You do?
Yeah,
I don't know. I like that one. I don't like all of them.
Alright, so we're going to send in our gigantic Knight.
Gonna attack. With our opponent's mana a little limited, we don't have to worry about easy Batterskull loops shutting us down.
Well, now I'm kind of inclined to take... Okay. Now that, like, the threat of Mazevis is in there, now it's, like, pretty attractive to try to go for Jit, right?
Yep, I agree. We're just going to drop it in. And I'm curious as to what Sean's answer is, because he didn't have one the last time we looked.
I mean, you could have a Scrib Ranger in his hand, I guess, would be pretty awesome here.
That would be good. Scrib Ranger would be able to come down, untap the Knight, fetch up the Maze, and in general...
Also just be a pro-blue blocker, just eat the click, too.
Oh, super correct if he does attack. I mean, he would have to send the click since he lost his germ, so yeah, that would be a sickening blowout. Actually, it'd be a mild blowout. I retract. It'd just be good. Snapcaster Mage. For swords?
This is I actually like this. This is just a lot more conservative.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about this is we exposed our Jitte to the Pride Mage a little earlier than we had to.
Sure. Well, Pride Mage has no shortage of good targets at this point.
Sure. This time we went and got Arbor, not Maze. It's possible we boarded out Maze. I don't like that, but
I mean I understand like the instinct to board out Maze, because it's like, well, I'm not being attacked by this deck, so why do I want a Maze? But in reality, the games play out where the equipment is a huge part of what's going on, like, and Maze just shuts off that angle.
Yep. Maze in the Jitte War is pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And while Sean has the advantage of 2 Jittes to Adam's 1, Adam has the advantage of a bunch of Stoneforge Mystics to Sean's 1. So
and there's a concession. I guess he's just going to get the Jit online, and that's going to be it. But that's actually like I am definitely